Hello everyone and welcome back to COD Banter. My name is Tucker Hazel and of course I am joined by my co-hosts Sergeant Dan and Andrew Roscoe of My Star Wars Show fame, and today we are here to talk about Call of Duty World at War in our journey to do a retrospective review series of every single Call of Duty game along with my very first playthrough of each of these games. But World at War is a return to form, some might say, but a step forward because we are back in the trenches of World War II. Call of Duty 1, 2, 3, all in World War II. Maybe felt a little samey because of that, but we got a fresh start with Modern Warfare, but we're back to put a little spin on what World War II means for the Call of Duty franchise. But if you are a Call of Duty fan and you want to talk to me about my first time playing World at War, you want to talk to good old Dan, you want to talk to Andrew about their thoughts on this game or the other Call of Duty games, you can join our Discord. The link at the top of the description. Of also, there's a subscribe button. You better do that. I mean, what the hell's wrong with you, don't you? You can like the video, you can comment. I love reading comments. We don't get enough of those. But boys, we're here. We're back in World War II. World at War, to be precise. And Andrew, no, actually, I'm sorry. Sergeant Dan, I got to go to you first because I believe this one is special to you. What do you think about Call of Duty World at War?
I love Call of Duty World at War. I think this was the first game that I am like regularly looking forward to a Call of Duty at release. Like
Sure.
Modern Warfare, I had gotten at Christmas, so it wasn't like I was, hyping it up. I kind of tangentially knew about Call of Duty, but this one was very special. Like I saw they marketed zombies. We probably won't talk too much about zombies, but zombies is here. Multiplayer, I was so deep in multiplayer, so I was riding multiplayer at this point. But yeah, this game is super special. There are some complaints about the story for me, but going back to World War II, I don't mind the World War II era of Call of Duty. It gets a little tedious, but I think that they do a very good job of being cinematic. It has two very strong performances. You got Kiefer Sutherland, my boy, as what's his? I forget his name. Roebuck.
Yeah.
And then you get which is odd. You get Gary Oldman as Reznov, which is very interesting. I know some people might not pick that up, but Gary Oldman, very good performance too.
All right, Andrew, what do you have to say about World at War? World at War.
I don't remember it as fondly as Daniel does. I remember when this game came out, I didn't have COD fatigue because we only had like Modern Warfare before that, but I just wasn't. I didn't feel like having to start over again after a year of playing COD 4 and playing online. And I wasn't looking forward to starting over. And I also wasn't looking forward to a historical step back.
Sure.
I kind of wasn't really feeling that. So I didn't play World at War until at least 2 to 3 years after, out of curiosity. So I don't hold it in high regard. I mean, it's definitely better than, the previous World War II games, at least. I only played the first one, but I didn't really enjoy it as much. I mean, it was nice listening to Kiefer Sutherland kind of just bossing you around and telling you to do stuff, but other than that, I love the character of Reznov. I think the Russian campaign for me was much stronger than the Pacific campaign because I was just kind of going through the motions with the Pacific campaign, being with the Soviets and like pushing back, and like Reznov kind of he like appeals to you, like to your like sense of nationalism, and he's like way more like propaganda heavy, and that kind of kept me a little more engaged than the Pacific campaign. So I enjoy whenever we were in the European theater, I enjoyed that pushing back and like they make us bleed on our land, we're gonna make them bleed on theirs. Like when we get there, it's just like all right, I'm buying it. Like let's go socialists and stuff.
Hoorah
for the mother.
Yeah. A little bit of hoorah for you.
That worked for me.
I think I land somewhere in between the two of you. I obviously do not have nostalgia for this game. That's the point of this series. It's my first playthrough of World at War. But I had a very good time playing this game. I don't think that it's anything incredibly special, but when we're reflecting on Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3 and how, we started feeling a little bit of fatigue playing through 3 World War II games at the same time, having a return to World War II, but with the sensibilities of design that we got from Modern Warfare in terms of more cinematic storytelling, more grounded and gritty visuals and tone, and the more impressive environments and more linear levels. I still think this is a very good game, and I'm glad that it sort of caps off this early era of COD by returning to its roots, but saying, hey, look what we can do now. We've learned from our growth in some of the story beats of 3 and definitely from 4. But I do think it's a step down from Modern Warfare, in my opinion. And I think that going back to World War II is cool. And I think that, as we'll talk to the campaign, is a little bit imbalanced. But it definitely feels a little bit samey because I've seen the Siege of Stalingrad in one of the previous Call of Duty games. Like we've experienced some of these beats before, and it just doesn't have the creativity that Modern Warfare has that I think makes that game so special. But still a good game, and I'm not going to be ragging on it too much because as we'll get to at the end of this with our ranking, I think this is clearly my second favorite that we've played so far. But any moments of the campaign, any elements of it that stick out to you guys you want to discuss?
Grenades. Lots of grenades.
Lots of
Especially in the
grenades.
harder difficulties. They just
Yeah.
are flying at you. You get those icons everywhere.
Yeah, it's just that sometimes I'll get more than one indication.
Yeah.
I played on PC because I thought I still had my PS3 copy and I couldn't find it. So I got the PC version, which was kind of cheap actually. And I was just like, because I'm used to playing with controller and like I suck at mouse and key. And every now and then, because I couldn't map the grenade throw back button, I would just pop it up like, oh, G, push G, and like back to my controller. And it was just like, I tried playing on hardened because I'm like, oh, this is COD, I can do hardened. And I was like, oh no, too many grenades. Went down to like regular or normal, I guess. I don't know what it's called. And that was a little bit better. But then by the end of the game, I think the last like third of the game, I just put it down to beginner because I'm like, I'm tired of these grenades. It's just so annoying. So that's a big thing that sticks out for me.
Yeah, I think maybe the grenade thing, it was only kind of a problem for me because I was playing on the lower difficulties anyway. But just they seem to explode very fast, and also the indicator is not particularly helpful. Like it's got an arrow, but it doesn't really tell you where it is. So I kept dying to grenades. Absolutely, that's a big part of this game.
Yeah, it's infamous. This game's infamously hard. Back in the day, trying to like get somebody, you talking to someone on over party chat or whatever, and like trying to play with someone, and it's just too much. Trying to play.
I think maybe another one of the design elements of this game that makes it a little harder, a little more confusing for me. Is that sometimes I feel like the mission objectives aren't very well explained. Like they'll say, hey, take back this area, defend this area, but there's not, unlike previous games, there's not like a timer until you have to finish that. There's not an obvious amount of guys that you have to pick through in order to finish it up and move on to the next thing. Sometimes I would be staying in an area and I would just feel like there's waves and waves of guys coming because presumably they spawn infinitely in some cases. And then I would just be sitting there like, am I supposed to be like going somewhere else to get the level to like, oh, okay, now you can move on. Like it sometimes just is not very clear what exactly you're supposed to do, where, how, when. A little bit confusing. That frustrated me multiple times throughout the campaign.
I was stuck at a particular part. You mentioned that part.
Yeah.
Where there on the Pacific side of the campaign, where you were supposed to throw satchel charges into some bunkers.
Yeah.
And I kept throwing them at the yellow glowing sacks, which I thought were the targets, because I'm like, usually in COD games, the yellow means like that's where you're supposed to drop it off. It was just to
plant
refill
the explosives there. Yeah,
I was supposed to refill your satchel. So I was stuck for like a few minutes. I'm like, they're not blowing up. Like, what am I doing wrong? And then it wasn't like, wait a minute, like, oh, it's the thing behind that was supposed to blow up. And I'm just like, oh, there we go. So yeah, the map, the little mini compass, like it gives you a general area, but it's not like that's the target. So
it's not particularly specific. Yeah.
Do
you have problems with that, Daniel?
Actually, no. Maybe it's just because of at this point I've played so many CODs. Like I'm used to kind of like always pushing. So I'm constantly pushing forward all the time.
Sure.
The in terms of progression part, that didn't really bother me. But yeah, I understand your issue with it. I wish they'd be a little more clear, like, oh, now you need to move forward. You have done this. Move on.
Exactly. The other thing about this campaign that I think is both a pro and a con is that it returns to the more disconnected storytelling format of the first 3 games. Modern Warfare always feels like you're contributing to one larger narrative. Of course, the separated narratives combine near the end. But this returns to what we did in the first 3, which is you've got 2 different countries fighting their part of World War II, and That's it. You're feeding into the larger narrative that World War II happened, but there's not really a larger story going on. And I think that maybe disconnected me from it a little bit, even though I do think that the characters in this, in terms of their performances and characterization, are stronger than those previous 3 games. The fact that the 2 storylines are entirely separate and they're not leading to like a big bad guy or a real climactic moment that we know is going to be happening, like to look forward for the whole game, that kind of felt like a step back for me compared to Modern Warfare.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of like vignettes in a way, kind of
Yeah.
much more like the first 3. Where, I mean, I think I keep calling it Russia. Technically, it's the Soviets, but the Soviet side definitely feels much more like a conclusion because it literally is the end of the war, pretty much, at least for the European theater. And then, like in the Pacific side, like we blow up this castle, and I guess
you kind of just get rescued.
I guess we're done. Like that's it. Yeah, you can we don't have to use the nukes after all. I don't know. It just kind of feels very kind of like here's a little snippet of what happened here. Let's go back to the Russian side or the Soviet side, and like here we're storming the Reichstag, and like here let's put the flag freaking over the building, and like that's it. Like this is the target. We've accomplished it. Hitler's probably dead in the bunker by now at this point. And like here we go. Like we're facing off against like the old, the young, the last the very there's a sense of desperation that I appreciate in that last part where it's like you're blowing up like the flag hands and they just keep falling back, and like they're just like they're about it, like they're like even Reznov is kind of telling you like they're like fighting tooth and nail, like this is it, they know this is it for them. And it's like I found that was way more engaging for me than just whatever was going on with Roebuck and everybody in the Pacific.
I would like to mention real quick, I love the intro for each of the characters. The first one for what is it, Miller? You play Miller,
Private Miller,
where you're hanging. That's really cool. And then I love it for Dimitri, where you're just in the bodies and you wake up and the Nazis are just shooting all the bodies and the bodies are like falling right next to you. Then you see Reznov. Just super cool intros for each of the characters. I really like that, especially Dimitri's. Dimitri's is awesome.
Yeah, that first mission of the Soviet part of the campaign, I think, is one of the highlights of the game, because it actually quite feels like a mission from Modern Warfare, where you're going from a more stealth part of the mission to the sniper part to the guns blazing, all of that. That feels a lot like missions that we played in Modern Warfare, and the fact that there's a couple other standout missions in this game, but for the most part, they do just boil down to shoot the guys in the area, move on to the next area. There's not a ton to mix it up. But that one is an absolute standout, especially, you're right, that opening moment where the bodies are next to you. And it plays into this story theme of Dmitri and Reznov, of that they're the ones that always survive, which I think is maybe one of the strongest character elements of this game. The fact that they keep playing on that until the very end. And even though Reznov and Dimitri aren't insanely well-developed characters, they have that bit to them that makes them kind of fun and unique.
They got a dynamic to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the whole thing where as long as you survive, Dimitri, you're the heart of this army. We got above all else, we got to keep you alive, or else I guess we just lose morale or something.
All the way to the end when you get shot by a Nazi.
Yeah.
All the way to the end. He's like, you got to get up. You got to plant that flag.
Yeah, so the thing I was saying a little bit earlier about this, the division of the campaign being a pro and a con, is I think I described my con a little bit, but the pro for me comes in that I like how different the Pacific theater and the European theater are in terms of gameplay and environments and all. They are vastly different from what we've seen in the previous World War II games, in that you have to actually approach the tactics of defeating the Japanese in the Pacific theater in different ways, because they're using noticeably different tactics that actually materially affect the gameplay and progression. So I found I think you're right, Andrew. I was not as engaged by the story elements of the Pacific theater, but seeing what new tactics they designed the enemy Japanese to be using, that and the different areas that were more swamps or beaches or palm trees, stuff like that. That definitely made it stand out a lot. I think that's one of the most unique elements about this game is exploring these new environments and tactics, which were not touched on at all in those previous World War II games.
In the first, because I didn't play 2 and 3, by any chance, is this the first time you actually have ground battles with the Japanese in COD?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't have that in 2 and 3. Then.
No,
Okay,
I mean,
wasn't
it's
sure.
all Russia, Germany, France, some
Okay.
Africa. Like, they don't really step too far out of their comfort zone.
I definitely approached the Pacific Theater a little differently. I moved a lot slower. I was a little more like cautious because they have like they pop out of the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
They have
Spider
the
holes, I think
snipers
they're
in the
called.
trees.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like if you rush, I felt like I got punished more by rushing on the Pacific Theater where people would just like banzai me and like stab me with the bayonets. Whereas in the European theater, like it was kind of like it's a structure, like this my terrain kind of. I think it plays differently because like, I mean, when you start with the European one, like you're basically in the Soviet Union territory, and then you're pushing back to Germany. But like I mean, there's a couple of missions on the Pacific Theater where it's like, oh, you started off with no ammo because you're waiting for the supply drop. Like you're the one pushing here. You don't have home field advantage. You're kind of the stranger in the strange land kind of thing. And so that's why you're just not used to jungle warfare the same way. I mean, I think this is like the first time, I could be wrong, but I don't think like from a historical point, I don't think we were ever Americans at this point were ever like integrated to jungle warfare. They were used to kind of open flat kind of warfare, like the Civil War and other stuff like that. So it's very new to them, right? Like having like booby traps. I remember, doesn't somebody like step on a like a little sling thing that pulls them up? I think I saw at one point where like some kind of like an Acme like trap kind of thing. Right? Someone steps into like a noose or something, gets pulled up into a tree.
Yeah,
like,
no, the tactics that the Japanese enemies utilize in this game are like really unique, and that's what I was trying to get to. Like the fact that you're talking about them popping out of holes, or being in the trees, but then just like wearing ghillie suits and using kamikaze bayonet attacks and like booby trapping that plane at the beginning of one of the earlier missions. Like these are things that are not touched at all in the Soviet side of the campaign, which totally makes sense, but weren't touched upon at all in those first 3 games. So it's like it was kind of refreshing for me. Like I've been killing so many goddamn Nazis in the first 3 games, and then half of this game, that having like a fresh, quote unquote, a fresh face to shoot, it was definitely something that was very unique.
Yeah, they're fighting at all costs is awesome. It's really cool to see. I love the part when you get the flamethrower.
Yeah.
And you're just walking around the flamethrower, just burning people. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that comes up a number of times in the game. The flamethrower is definitely one of my favorite weapons.
Yeah.
The flamethrower, I felt it's not that I felt like uncomfortable with it, just knowing that you're roasting these people and like the cries and shrieks. I'm like, man, I should just shot them.
The sounds in this game are insane.
Yeah, I just felt I felt so bad, but I'm like, oh, the flamethrower makes everything so much easier. I don't have to be as precise, and I'm just like going
you click it over their heads, and they immediately catch on fire their entire body.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, like I just thinking of like my intolerance of heat. I'm just like, oh man, I'm so glad like this is an outlaw. We don't use flamethrowers anymore. Thank God.
Can I talk about the sound?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in general, man, the sound is so crunchy in this game. Like I think in terms of gun sound, I like it more than Modern Warfare. Modern Warfare had pretty good gun sounds, but like when you get the trench gun and it just the chunky sound that it makes every time, it's so satisfying. I like the MP40 sound. It's pretty classic, but all the sounds in this game, all the guns are just so. They only get better with Call of Duty, and that is one of Call of Duty's best aspects is gun sound. But this game, it really steps it up.
I mostly noticed it during the I forget the name of the mission, but it's the one where you're going to the different parts of the plane, where you're going to like the rear and then the side and opening. And I just remember like the sounds of like the zeros that are, because I'm a big Star Wars fan, so like when I think of like the vehicle sounds and like the way everything sounds like unique with you got the splashes, you got your like Dan was saying, like the 50 cal or I think it was a 50 cal.
There's that gas sniper. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
maybe.
Wait, are you talking about the one at the
I was talking about the trench gun, which is the shotgun.
Yeah, trench gun. Yeah, the shotgun. Yeah. I know, but I'm thinking of like when you're just like when you get into like the different parts of the ship and it's just like the
the mounted gun.
Yeah, the mounted thing. Yeah. No, there is like that. There's like a 50 cal though.
They just sound so meaty, is what I'm saying. Like you're just it's not like a pea shooter kind of thing. You feel like I don't know how to describe it exactly, but you're right with the gun sounds. it's very atmospheric. I liked it a lot.
There's even weird ones like that 50 cal sniper. It's like a gas powered sniper, and it sounds and feels weird to shoot. But
Are you
it's
talking
just a
about the one
really
at the
old.
end of the game?
Yeah, you can even use it in like multiplayer.
Yeah,
stuff.
the PTR something.
I forget what the
It's
what
an
the
anti-material rifle. So that's actually designed for destroying tanks. It's not meant
yeah,
to be. Yeah.
like that thing just sounds weird and it
Like it
feels
loads
weird to
funny
shoot.
too, like kind of
yeah,
yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I think that the sound is a big part of another thing that this game does, and I think takes from Modern Warfare is just the viscerality of everything. I think this is the first game in the series to have like serious gore. When
legs get
shooting.
blown off.
Yeah,
you like was it? Remember the term? Dan was it gibbing, something like that. Do you remember the term? There was a.
I don't remember.
Because in some games you could I think you can disable the dismemberment. I think
is that's an option.
I believe there is an option, but yeah, I think you can. It's obviously with the higher caliber weapons are the ones that allow you to actually like remove whole parts of bodies, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that viscerality does play into a lot of the violentness of the Pacific Theater and the ways that the Japanese are kamikazing and they're using booby traps and people are getting blown up. But even just the way that you when you play as the Soviet side, gaining the edge on the Nazis and just gathering the ones that are surrendering and killing them over and over and over again throughout across the game. Like this game definitely does take that viscerality more seriously. And it's like, yeah, on both sides, people were just not caring about the lives that they were taking, and it definitely does make it feel more dour. And ending the game, after the planting the flag and then the ending cutscene with the war footage. It says like 60 million lives were lost in World War II. And like it definitely has a reverence for the lives lost on all sides in this game that the other games only kind of touched on. But the gore does add to that. It makes it feel more real. And sometimes, or actually a lot of the time, I found that shooting at the Nazis or I guess the Japanese, and they would be like on the ground hobbling away, and like they're not even trying to shoot you at that point. Like they're just wounded, and you have the option to kill them or not. And of course, there's that moment where the Nazis are trying to surrender in the entrance to the metro, and
Molotovs.
And
you can either shoot them or somebody will burn them.
Yeah, exactly. What did you guys do for that moment?
Shoot them.
I just shot him. Yeah.
Just
when
get
I saw
it
I had
with.
Molotovs again. Like I this is why I can't watch horror movies, Sucker, because I'm just someone who like I imagine things and it makes me wince, and I'm like, no, let's just shoot. Let's just just shoot him. There's even the part like earlier on with like Reznov, who's like at this point pretty much a war criminal, really, who like when he saves you after like having seen you for so long or whatever, we get that like transition when he saves you, and you have like the Germans on the Nazis on the ground. And it's like, oh, like okay, like they're dying. It's like, no, like shoot them, like shoot them. Like it's like, oh, they're just gonna bleed out. And the guy's like, he gets pissed at the guy for not doing it. And then like, I just shot him right as soon as I could. I just like started shooting. And then like, there we go. So
yeah, those little like story beats that you can have that aren't just cinematic. I wish that Call of Duty would do even more of those because they don't really get talked about a lot. Like the moment with the Molotov or shooting the Nazis, like, or even that Nazi shooting scene. Like, I kind of wish that they would do even more of that. There are some of that throughout kind of all of the Call of Duties of you kind of making choices of what to do. But I think even more of a focus on that would, I think, kind of help Call of Duty a lot. Make you feel like you are the person.
Yeah,
you have agency,
to like trophies or like achievements where it's like try to save this person before this happens or like so.
Yeah, I think it's the one in the very opening mission.
Yeah,
with Miller, you have to like save that guy.
Yeah.
If you don't or whatever.
Yeah. That was very cool. Yeah.
Or like when your plane is down in the ocean and it's like,
it was Save Private Ryan. That's what
was that the name of it? That's so funny.
And it's like, how many of the people in the water did you save of your own? And it's like, oh, I think I got 4 or something. And they're like, oh, okay, I got 5. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Damn, Daniel, come on.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, any other aspects of this game that stick out to you that you'd like to talk about, good or bad?
Ooh. I mean, I would like to, can we talk about zombies for a minute?
Absolutely, sure, yeah.
Zombies is awesome. This is the first time they introduced it. They started with the one bunker map, and then they had some DLC packs that introduced 3 more later, and they got kind of progressively more interesting. They they started introducing like the mystery box and then just a lot of things that people look at now. It's zombies that it's just, that's the standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. Zombies is just so fun, and it's one of people's favorite modes now. And it's crazy to look back at like that very first map and to think, wow, this like really, I think, kind of changed Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've really ever played much, Tucker.
No, I mean, I think the only zombies experience I've ever had was a Call of Duty mobile game I played with my friends when I was in like middle school. Because I've never been much of I've obviously not played COD. That's the point of this show, and especially not multiplayer shooters like this. I don't have much experience with zombies, but obviously big part of the franchise now. Very interesting that this was the first one to try it, and the mode isn't just zombies; it's Nazi zombies, and I like that it sort of spun off and became its own important thing.
The third map is actually Japanese zombies.
Oh, sure, okay. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the mode on the menu is called Nazi.
It might be,
Yeah.
but I just want to throw that out there. They do Japanese zombies, but yeah, and this makes Call of Duty more of a package, which I think is a really good for Treyarch. They kind of step the game up, like, hey, like Infinity Ward, we're introducing in another mode that people are gonna love. Like, you got to do something too.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been a huge fan of the Nazi zombies mode because with games, I don't really care much for like endless modes or like things that don't have a definitive like end to them.
Yeah.
So I never really cared for Nazi zombies. I've always been a fan of like the other offerings where they've done like Spec Ops or like you'll see it in the next game, but things like that where like there is an end goal in sight kind of thing, not just like how long can you last. So I've never been a huge fan of zombies, even when like later on when it gets weirder and weirder. I just
it gets insane.
It's not for me. It's not personally for me, but I know Nazi zombies is a huge selling point for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I think we've reached the end of this part of our discussion. Now it's time to rank Call of Duty World at War against the other 4 games that we have reviewed so far. I don't even know if I have the ranking, but
I think I remember. Is it Modern Warfare? Is it?
I should have written this down.
Yeah, I think it's Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 3.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Warfare 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
So how would you guys like to place Call of Duty World at War? Let's talk to you, Andrew. You seem to be the one lowest here. Where would it place for you against the other 4?
I mean, it's definitely above 1, which I didn't play 2 and 3. I skipped those, but I'll defer to you guys on those. I'm sure they're probably in the same ballpark as 1, and like for sure it's better than 1. I can't put it above Modern Warfare. I just can't, because I just Modern Warfare to me is at this point is the complete package, not in terms of content, but in terms of like from a story, from a narrative point, it's just so much better. So Modern Warfare for me is still
Daniel?
top 1.
What would your placement be?
Number 2. This is a special game for me. It's not as special as Modern Warfare, but this is easily the best World War II Call of Duty, and for me, this is probably my second favorite, just overall, and that's mostly because of my multiplayer memories. But that's right. Yeah, I put it at 2.
Yeah, and I'm the exact same. I'm glad there's no real discussion here. It'll be interesting when we get later on, if we do have more dissenting opinions, how we're gonna argue the placement of these. But you know what? For now, let's bask in the glory of unanimity, because our new ranking goes Call of Duty Modern Warfare, World at War, Call of Duty 2, 1, 3. And now with that, we have talked about Call of Duty World War, and of course that means that we're back to Modern Warfare next month for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Just in time. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is coming out again this year.
They just announced like the date too.
Yep.
They just announced the
28th, I believe.
28th, yeah.
Yep. And so that'll be something interesting. We'll of course off screen talk a little more about this, but there's a chance that we sort of jump ahead and talk about that game when it comes out, just so it's fresh in our memories. Break the order a little bit, but maybe get some viewers on this goddamn show. But thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. I had a great time talking about this. I'm very excited to return to Modern Warfare and see if 2, for me, a game I know nothing about, surpasses the original. A little bit below, how it compares to World at War, which I had a good time with. Who knows?
I made a prediction a long time ago. I'm gonna say it one more time. I think this Modern Warfare 2 will be your favorite.
Okay, interesting.
It's definitely my favorite, so I'll just put that out there.
All right. Well, having my expectations
Get you a
set
little
in
hyped.
multiple
Get you a little
ways.
hyped.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, for watching this. Leave your personal ranking of these first 5 games, or which one is your favorite, down in the comments below, and we will see you guys next time for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Tucker, you thought you could escape World War II?
No,
You could escape.
we got pulled right back. No.
They keep pulling me back in.
And I thought I was done, but they pulled me back in.
Yeah.